Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today it happened. GW have came in with not the Nerf bat, not the Nerf hammer, but the Nerf. What's bigger than a hammer? Nuke. Maybe it's too much to say, but I did warn changes were coming. They really did. They talked a lot about how they wanted to shut down Tyranids from being as powerful as they did. And it has come. We have the first two changes set in. These two are the most Tyranid specific changes. We still have, so this was the Minotaur Field Manual, our point changes. And we had the balanced Dataslate, which was other changes. We have one more change to come, and that is chapter approved. That could pose to be somewhat of a saving grace for the Tyranids. I don't want to say it's all doom and gloom, but today we are going to go over the changes to balanced Dataslate, changes to the points for the Tyranids, talk about it a little bit, and we'll wrap it all up. When chapter approved comes out this Saturday for pre-order, all the rules will be up. I'll talk about that on Monday, so stay tuned to that. And if you do want to hang out, we are going to do a live stream. We're going to try it out this Sunday at 1:30. It should already be on the channel if you can just search the channel and find it. Mainly, we want to just test out our live stream mechanics, make sure everything is running well before we do our official live streams. So this will be, I've got two of my friends, Sam and Matt, you guys know. We'll be playing a game on the table. I'll be running the controls, monitoring chat if any of you guys decide to show up. Just make sure things are going well. So want to put that out there. And if you do guys want to stay up to date on our content, well, we will be covering all these changes to the Tyranids in depth. Like and subscribe to stay up to date there. Do consider becoming a member if you want to support us. We also have the Etsy shop down below. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive into today's changes. So like I said, Tyranids took the nerf nuke. That's probably one of the biggest nerfs they've done to an army since either Admech or Dark Elder were at their pinnacle a year or two ago. We'll be covering their point changes, balanced Dataslate changes. There were Tyranid specific changes and core changes, both some good and some bad for those. And we'll go over some of my thoughts and conclusions, but won't get too rambly in this one just yet. Point changes. This is where things just went wild. I was expecting a lot of these changes. Some of them completely out of the blue, and some of them a lot more than I was anticipating. So first off, the Winged Hive Tyrant. Yeah, our Flyrant, he went up by 20 points. I get it. Now coupled with another change, I think it might have even been too much. I think 15 points probably should have been where it's at. Flyrant is still going to be very good. The Reaper of Obliterax has not changed beyond that one small nerf it gave to it. It's still a powerful option, but you got to be even more careful with it than you already were. So that's the Flyrant. The Tervagon went up 20 points. This one I totally understand. The thing is an absolute menace. 20 points is not really going to sway my choice in whether I take it or not. I still love the Tervagon and think she's an absolute menace, both in psychic support, in melee, if you give her the relics and stuff and warlord traits, and just be able to keep that Gon squad going, buffing them. Yes, I love Tervagon. 235 points. Again, you're paying for a 70-point Tervagon squad in addition. So really, she's only 165, which is amazing for that. Another one which I just don't understand, and I was really, I don't get it. Old One Eye went up another 15 points. I don't know. Yes, I used Old One Eye. Maybe they're watching me and showing how awesome Old One Eye can be, but he is not a top tier tournament level monster. He does well, but he only competes and really benefits and plays in one phase of the game, and that is the fight phase / charge phase. I don't know why he didn't need these points. If anything, I would have left him the same, maybe given him a 5-point decrease, but yeah, so really dumb. I think GW, I don't know. Why Old One Eye? He was in the most playable state, not overpowered, not useless like he has been in so many past codexes. He was in his best state he's ever been in, I think. And now this happened. I'll still try him out sometimes, but 250 points, more than the Swarm Lord, is a bit weird. Neurothrope went up 10 points, totally fair. Neurothrope's great, probably should be a little bit more than what it was, so I'm okay with that. The Warriors, these guys got a huge change, and we'll probably do a video about this in the future about how we want to play Warriors now. The Barbed Strangler went up 5 points, so now it costs 10 points, where the Death Spitters and Venom Cannons cost 5 points. The Bone Swords, they went up 5 points each. So if you take a Lashfoot Bone Sword, that's 5 points. If you take a pair of Bone Swords, that's 10 points. That went up. And then the Death Spitter, like I said, the Death Spitter went up 5 points. So if you take the coveted loadout that we've been using all edition, your Warriors now 45 points, which is way too much, I think. Yes, they're good. They do a lot of slashing in melee. They're basically carrying a damage 1 heavy bolter at range, all in a single model. They're toughness 5, but that 4-up save, unless you're stacking the Leviathan Hive Nexus on them over and over again, they're not that durable. In the state of how killy 40k is, these things die just like that to pretty much anyone's firepower. Big changes on Warriors. Again, I'll probably do a whole video on them in the future here. Tyrant Guard went up 5 points. Fine. It's just a tax on Hive Tyrants. I don't know if it's really necessary. I mean, the Tyrant Guard are good and they do their thing, but whatever, fine. I'm not thrown off by it. Venom Throats went up 5 points. Again, same thing. I'm not thrown off by it. I get it. It's they're good. They're very, very good with that -1 bubble of such a big range with the unit of 3, and for the CP to make it double the area. And if really you're thinking about an area of a circle, it's more than double. Zone Throps went up 20 points. They mentioned there being a second change to the Zone Throps. They mentioned, if you watch the Meta Watch video, which I actually sat down for the first time and listened to the whole thing, they mentioned that they changed the mortal wound output of the Zone Throps in the balanced data slate. Now, I could not find it anywhere. They didn't mention in detail what the change was. They just said, oh, in the balanced data slate, you know, they put out a lot of mortal wounds. Maybe I'll sneak the clip in right here if I can. But yeah, it just, I couldn't find any change on their mortal wound output. So it's just a straight 20-point increase on them. 210 points for a unit. It's chunkier. I mean, that's more than 10% of your army is just that one unit. Yes, they do a lot of mortal wounds. Yes, they're imperative awesome. Yes, they're synapse creatures. I still think in a majority or plurality of lists, one unit is going to be good to go. But I think if you're going to want to take a second unit of these, you might want to just spend the extra 30 points and take a Maleceptor, because at this point, for 30 points more, a Maleceptor might be better than a second unit of Zone Throps. Maybe. We'll see. Maleceptor didn't change, so he's still good. Raveners went up 15 points a model. They went from 30 to 45. They're 45 points. Yes, a Ravener is good. Yes, it is fast. Yes, it is high AP on their scything or their rending claw attacks, which is great. Yes, they have guns, and they didn't charge you for anything for the guns. That's really what they probably should have done, is said Raveners went up 5 points, Death Spitters went up 5 points, but they can't because then they, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Raveners are going to be seen that much. The days of 10 Raveners, I think, are long gone. Trigons. What the heck, GW? Why'd they go up 15 points? I understand why they went up 15 points, and we'll talk about it later. 15, I think, is too many, and honestly, they didn't need to, but I know GW's reasoning. You still might see some Trigons here and there. You might see some Trigon Primes, maybe not, but come on. Carnifexes, they went up 10 points. I guess they're still good. Only the standard Carnifex did, so if you like Screamer Killers, they didn't change, which is good. Standard Carnifexes are still solid. I think they're still going to be solid. They didn't. It is a lot of points increases on them, but I don't think it's to the point where you're going to be struggling as to question fielding them. Now for the dumbest change in the entire balanced data slate. If someone can find me a worse change in the balanced data slate of any army, put it in the comments. I want to know. The Hive Guard went up by 5 points. Already the least used, unless someone can, someone's got some other data otherwise, the least used unit in the Tyranid Codex. I can't think of a unit that was used less than a Tyrannos. God, the freaking Spore Assist was used more than a Tyrannos, or than a Hive Guard unit. They're not good, and they were overpriced. If you saw my last video, I thought Hive Guard should go down by 5 points. They went up by 5 points, and they will continue to sit on everybody's shelf. And GW, I don't know what you're thinking. I do know, but I don't know what you're thinking on this one. Tyrannofexes, they went up 15 points. I think it's wholly justified. They're very good. Maybe 15 was just 5 points too much, as tends to be the theme with this. But again, main thing is the acid spray is looking very, very good in this edition. So if you don't have a Tyrannofex with acid spray, I might recommend getting one of those, because they are going to be good in this next 6 months of Tyranids. Harpy heavy venom cannons went up 15 more points per heavy venom cannon, so 30 points total. You now have to pay 60 additional points for the heavy venom cannons. They did not touch the Stranglethorn. I think the Stranglethorn in many cases was the better option to begin with. Now it's even more the better option. So hopefully you magnetize your Harpies, or your opponents do not care, because I don't know if anyone's ever going to take heavy venom cannons on a Harpy again. And finally, Synaptic Enhancement went up 5 points, which is dumb. Bring the other ones down a couple points if you're going to do that, because Synaptic Enhancement was the only one we really took besides Dermic Symbiosis. So a little upsetting. Again, all of these little point increases, chunks, might result in a few less models per unit, but overall I think Tyranids, we're going to be building our list very different in this next 6 months. So let's see what we got. Again, not totally doom and gloom. Chapter Approved also came in with some changes. There's some Tyranid specific stuff and then some game-wide things. So we'll talk about the Tyranid specific stuff. They took our poor Spore Mines, who were sitting on a nice floating pedestal of awesomeness and tactical glory, because Spore Mines were not an auto-win unit. You could play Spore Mines and play them poorly, and it would not help you win games. It was the people who knew how to play chess while everyone else was playing checkers and make Spore Mines do well. Or you just brought like a metric buttload of them, and then yeah, it was pretty much, here are my Spore Mines. There probably should have been a different change, but what they did is Spore Mines from your Biovores, your Sporocysts, and your Harpies now cost reinforcement points. Woo! So if you average your Biovores, let's say you shoot or you spawn Spore Mines 4 times a game, because sometimes on that 5th game you go last and there's no point to spawning Spore Mines. So let's just say 4 times a game. Average is 6 Spore Mines let's see. 6, let's just say it's 6, I think it might be 7, but 6 Spore Mines a turn, 10 points per Spore Mine. That is 60 points per turn you need to spawn Spore Mines. That is 240 points a game that you are spending on stupid little Spore Mines. They should have done something else to it. I think maybe limit, say you can only spawn a max of this many Spore Mines, or you can only use 1 unit per game or per round to spawn Spore Mines. So don't make it the Harpy can do it or 2 Harpies can do it. And they already did that with the Biovores, where you can only do it with 1 unit of Biovores, but make it so 1 unit across the board could only spawn Spore Mines. Don't hurt the people who are using just 1 squad to be tactical. Punish the people who are using every single unit to just flood the board. That seems like a huge misstep on GW, and we're probably going to see the Sporocysts and the Biovores go back on the shelf because otherwise they are worthless. I mean, going back to the point changes here, if you're a regular viewer, appreciate you. My Renegade list that I brought in November to the tournament came like 5th overall or whatever it was. Maybe it was 7th, 6th. Anyway, no, it's 4th overall, 7th on just the battle points. Yes, and win-loss. My tournament list, if you factor in the average of 6 Spore Mines a turn, went up 565 points. 565. There's just no way that type of playstyle is ever going to be viable right now for the Tyranids. You're going to have to take all new units. Granted, most of what is on the point bump list was in my list, but still, 565 points is just a insane level of buff, or point bump. All right, back chapter approved. Overrun is also the big hitter, or the big hit here. Now only works on core models. If you guys watched my last video, you know I thought there was a different way to change this, but the Flyrant is here and no longer can overrun, so you gotta be oh so careful with him. Probably won't see the Flyrant nearly as much now. Granted, you can take 2 Hive Tyrants in the single detachment. We'll touch on that change on Monday, but you can take 2 Hive Tyrants in a single detachment now, which means you could not make that Flyrant your Warlord and just send him in as a flying cruise missile to nuke some units. I don't know if that's the most effective use of 245 points plus a relic at least, but it's something there. So big change there. I'd say it doesn't affect Raveners, but Raveners are so overpriced right now that it kind of does affect Raveners. And you'll probably just see it used on Hormagaunts and maybe Warriors in niche situations. So unfortunate there. But on the bright side, if we're looking on the bright side of things, because that's what we're going to do here is make the most out of Tyranids, that's 1 less CP a turn you have to spend. Final changes, chapter approved. Armor of Contempt is gone. I've been kind of pointing towards it in this video, but officially Armor of Contempt is gone for everybody except Votann. Still have Void Armor, which is Armor of Contempt essentially. Huge power boost to a lot of our things, which is why some of the point changes I understand. That's, I think, maybe what they're thinking with Hive Guard is now their AP2 is semi-useful. I still don't think it is, but it's semi-useful. This affects so many things. I was saying the Tyranid Warrior Scything Talons are now, AP1 is a thing, and with 7 attacks a model, that's nothing to scuff at. Our Termagants, our freaking Termagants now have AP1 again, so they're scary. Hormagaunts have AP again against all armies. That's good. Some of your big bugs that were only AP -2 and AP -3, I'm looking at the Haruspex. I still don't think he's great, but the Haruspex now having AP again, essentially on his Maw attacks, makes him more usable. So I might look at bringing him back into the fold. Aircraft changed again, so another hit to the Harpy is that now they must start off the board. I think this goes back to 6th or 7th edition. So the aircraft must fly onto the board from strategic reserve. So they can't come in turn 1, can only come in turn 2 or 3 or whatever. But then when they fly off the board, if they choose to fly off the board, because you could always do that, they cannot use their bombing run type rules. So I'm thinking like the Harpy, the Admech bomber, the Dark Eldar bomber, all of those, I think those are the main 3 that had the bombing rule. Can't use them, they fly off now. So important thing to think about. Is it? I don't know. A lot of people say that's kind of the end of the world for flyers. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but you know, it is what it is. Strategic reserve, this is the final change, and this is again why I think the Trigon and the Tyranofex also went up in points. Strategic reserves are now free. So you can just put a unit in strategic reserve. You could put 5 units in strategic reserve if points and everything allowed for it. The reason the Trigon went up is because this Trigon's tunnel ability works with units via strategic reserve. So he now became a much more effective deep striking transport, essentially. You can bring some big squads with him if you put him in strategic reserve. So it's an option. I might try and play with the Trigon, see what strategic reserve units would be effective to do that way. Who knows? Also, strategic reserve just coming on the edge. The Tyranofex, that flamer being able just to walk on the edge, full strength everything. And now that flamer is actually pretty good without armor contempt in the game. I think a lot of people are going to be trying that out, and I think it's a valid option, especially if you're willing to wait till a later turn and maybe you're making him OBSEC. So very good stuff there. Again, these are just a couple of the changes for the Tyranids. Actually, these are a lot of changes for Tyranids. We still have chapter approved 2023, which is coming out for pre-orders tomorrow, which means all the YouTubers who have the, status in GW's eyes to be given the book early have it. We are not there yet. So if you want to help us, like and subscribe, help us grow to get to that point. Otherwise, we'll have it the following Saturday, but the rules should be out, and hopefully they're out to an extent where I can cover them on the channel on Monday. But chapter 2023 should bring new missions. I think there are some tweaks to it. Secondaries, again, there are some secondaries that hopefully they change the Tyranid ones to make them more effective for us, because we're going to be struggling a bit right now. And then the detachment. There's the new detachment, and we'll talk about that more in depth. A lot of you have probably seen it. I just didn't want to cover it on the channel because we didn't have the full rules, so I didn't want to make a video claiming all this stuff and then realize, oh wait, there's stipulations that were not shown off or something like that. Which is why I waited on the point changes, because I know a lot of people reported the Tyranid point changes and they were wrong in a lot of cases. So I waited for that. Anyway, we still have these changes. We might go back to, instead of playing Tyranids as this hyper aggressive, go do all the damage and then score like I like to play them, it might be more the Genestealer cult way, which is we're going to pick and choose a couple fights here and there throughout the game, but we're going to focus on scoring primary as best as possible and really scoring secondary. Hopefully the changes to Tyranids allow us to do that, or change the secondaries allow Tyranids to do that, but stay tuned. I will cover all of that, and then once we have all the changes, we'll take some time to figure out, all right, how do Tyranids want to play in 40K these days? That is all we got. Wanted to make sure I got this out before the weekend. And if you do want to come along to our live stream on Sunday at 1:30 Central, US Central Time. So I guess if you're in the UK, what is that, 7:30? I know it's a Sunday night for you guys, but if you want to pop in for a little bit, say hello, chat some of the new changes, get some ideas out there. We will be doing it. Again, just testing out our system of all of our cameras, make sure everything's up and running. So that's what we got. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.